Yahoo! Anyways, I don't know what I'm doing. What is going on, my beautiful brothers and sisters, and welcome to the Aquarian Adepts, my platform, our platform to become your spiritual server. And welcome to the new moon in Scorpio. The time I'm making this is like pretty much dead conjunct. So this is a very powerful, transformative, life-altering moment for every single one of us. I have quite a bit of notes that I've taken on this. Oh, and it continues onto the back here. And it continues right here. So we'll talk about this. I'll try and I don't want this video to get super long. I just want to talk a little bit about the transits, the importance of it, and do like a little ceremony. By the way, for the ceremony, you're going to want to get a piece of paper. It could be just any old piece of paper, and because we're going to be doing something with it. Just piece of paper and like a pen or a marker or something like that. We'll utilize that later. But first of all, how are you all doing? How are y'all feeling about the energies and what is happening? I'm not going to lie, I have allowed myself to get quite flustered over the past 24 hours. And once again, I find myself in the situation to where I have not been as productive these past few days as I would have liked. Last week, it was familial stuff that was really bogging me down. This week, it is national stuff, i.e. politics and all this sort of stuff that's going on that's getting me down. And normally I don't let that stuff happen to me, but I think there's definitely this shift within our consciousness and how we act on things, especially now that we have all this cardinal energy that literally just came forth. We have the nodes which have shifted into Cancer and Capricorn respectively, and we have Uranus which has shifted into Aries, and of course we do have Venus which is still in Libra. So now we have this rev up of cardinal energy, which is really zapping us into the moment. It's zapping us into what is now. It's zapping us into action, to initiation. That's what's happening right now. So we just got through a lot of this fixed energy. Of course, we still have the sun in Scorpio, and that's where this new moon is at 15 degrees of Scorpio, right smack dab in the middle. I'm actually going to read a passage from my Inside the Degrees book because the description for 15 degrees of Scorpio is really on point. Just saying. Super on point. But yeah, really excited to be doing this video with you all, even though I know I'm a little late. I was originally going to do this yesterday, but I don't know. I've been going through just kind of like this purge of apathy. That's actually what I'll say. It's an apathy purge because it's like, for me over the past few weeks, I've been contemplating my direction, the direction of this channel, you know, been dealing with issues of self-confidence and work, financial stuff, and wondering why I'm doing all this and wondering if, or just kind of like, for me, I'm having to find a deeper trust in myself and a deeper trust in the process because it is a process. Things don't happen overnight. And I think for me, as someone who has a lot of these aspirations and definitely wants to help the world and provide my service and to uplift the world, it sometimes can be discouraging when things don't. When it can sometimes be discouraging when it seems like things are stacked against you, right? But I think this is happening for a lot of people, a lot of light workers, a lot of people who consider themselves light workers, or they consider themselves people of the New Age, or star children, or crystal children, or indigo children. I think this is definitely a theme where there seem to be odds that are stacked, but we have to trust ourselves and really have faith that we can actually move through those and actually come out the other end far stronger for it. But this new moon that we have today, anytime we have a new moon, it brings about beginnings, but it also does bring about endings. It's not just newness, it's also, an old cycle is, being completed, based off of the full moon in Scorpio that we had in Taurus. So now that we have this new moon, we have a new opportunity with the Scorpio. Scorpio are these deeper emotional depths, fixed water, so it can't be ice as well. So it can feel a little cold, but at the same time, it's this deep purity and this deep level of trust that we have in spirit as well. That's what Scorpio is. Purity is the treasure chest at the bottom of the ocean, but it's also the ocean. It's also the pressure of swimming down to reach that treasure. It's the investigator. It's the detective. Scorpio, of course, is sex as well, these deeper desires, but it's also realizing the sacredness of sex. I think one thing about Scorpio that's going to become more prevalent over the next 8 to 10 years is a bit of another sexual revolution. And this is mainly because of Uranus going to be in Taurus over the next 8 years, opposing the energy of Scorpio. So we're going to be receiving this revolution in our relationships, in our sexual expression and chemistry. If we haven't already seen revolutions, you're going to see a lot more over the next 6 to 8 years because Uranus is in Taurus. Right now it's in Aries. It'll come back into Taurus next year. But regardless, these are the energies that we're going to be playing with. Not only that, but we've had a lot of Scorpio energy that we've been having to sift through. We've had a lot of karma when it comes to this energy signature that we've had to sift through. Saturn came through this space. Well, I wrote all this down, but yeah, Saturn came through this space, several years ago, like 2015. Yeah, Saturn came through this space in 2015. Jupiter, of course, was here this year. Venus was here, Mercury was here, and Mars was there in 2016. We've had a lot of energy. Let me just go ahead and just kind of read off some of this. Because I think there are particular degrees, and I'll show you when I go into the chart and stuff, how there are certain degrees. It's 24, 25, and 26 degrees of Scorpio, which are very interesting points in Scorpio, because out of all the retrograde motions and the reflection energies that we have gone through as it deals with Scorpio energy, those 3 degrees are the only degrees that are only covered by one planet. Otherwise, there's overlapping of the retrograde space or the shadow zone or this area in our consciousness that needs to be reviewed. So Saturn retrograde that we had, which was in 2015, it retrograded from 4 degrees of Sagittarius. It came back to 28 degrees of Scorpio. That was the range, right? Now this Jupiter retrograde that we had in 2018, it was at 23 degrees of Scorpio and came back to 13 degrees of Scorpio. This is what we just got out of, right? This Venus retrograde that we're going right now, it went all the way up to 10 degrees of Scorpio, right? And came back to 25 degrees of Libra. It'll actually station there pretty soon, actually. This Venus retrograde is almost over. Now, we also have a Mercury retrograde that's going to happen later this year. This retrograde zone is going to be from about 13 degrees of Sagittarius to about 27 degrees of Scorpio. So this will actually cover the Saturn retrograde from 3 years ago. And we also had a Mars retrograde. This covered from 8 degrees Sag, which happens to be my ascendant, all the way to about 23 degrees of Scorpio. That means that 24, 25, and 26 degrees of Scorpio were only covered by the Mars retrograde. Saturn didn't hit the spot. Mercury won't hit the spot. Jupiter didn't make it to this spot. Jupiter will be going forward through this space. Jupiter will be going forward through the space that Mars, retrograded in. So this is really important because this is, where Jupiter is right now. And Jupiter will be coming, if it hasn't already, I need to actually look it up, will be coming into Sagittarius very, very, very soon. If not this week. I can just look it up really quickly. How literally in less than 24 hours, Jupiter will be in Sagittarius. So you see all this shifting energy. We have the North Node in Cancer, the South Node out in Capricorn. We have Uranus in Aries, and we have Jupiter coming into Sagittarius. This is a major pivot point. This is a major pivot point in all of our lives. And now we're going to begin the new journey, the new adventure. But what I wanted to say about this interesting how we have, and I'll show you guys in the chart here in a second, but we have so much of this retrograde energy that went through Scorpio. And we have, like I said, some critical degrees where you can say 24, 25, and 26 degrees. Mars was the only planet that retrograded on top of those degrees within the past, 2 to 3 years. So that means that whatever had to go through review period has had to deal with Mars energy, which is what? Action energy, initiation, cardinal fire. It's also about acting upon your creativity. So the fact that had to go through a review period means that in many ways, a lot of the actions that we made in 2016 when Mars was coming through Scorpio were heavily guided, were fated, and it's almost sort of like it wasn't an infraction on our free will, but it was an adjustment period because these happen. This is what actually keeps the checks and balances. Like, we do have free will, but there are moments where there needs to be adjustment. There are moments where we do need to be more like the puppet, and the universe feels more like a puppeteer. When I say that, I don't want you to get feel like you're being controlled and stuff like that, but it's a guidance because, like I said, we have free will, but we don't know what's going on. Like, no one really knows. We can do our best, but ultimately, we're just kind of flying by the seat of our pants. So there is definitely a gratitude that I feel from having the free will, and how free will has actually been tampered with. That's why the world is the way it is, because free will has actually been fucked with by dark forces. But we still go through these spiritual adjustment bureau periods where, as I said, 24, 25, and 26 degrees of Scorpio are interesting because they're the only degrees that fall within within the shadow zone of Mars. Saturn didn't make it there. Mercury won't make it there. Jupiter didn't make it there. Venus won't make it there. It's only Mars. Spiritual intervention much? I think so. I think this is definitely spiritual intervention. Now, the interesting thing about this is that Mercury will cover these spots next year. So we're going to revisit this area. But we're not going to get a lot of this deep contemplation of Scorpio energy. Like, we've gone through the bulk of it, which means that you have gone through the dark night. It's done. We're coming out the end of it, guys. This is a celebration. This is a new moon where we can actually bring forth new creation. We can hold space for new creation, for new miracles to be birthed. That is what this new moon is about. And the fact that it happens right in the middle of Scorpio means that it's a widely accessible energy for everybody. It means that this is obviously a benefit for everybody. Now, of course, if you are a Scorpio, if you have your sun or moon or rising or any major planets around this 15-degree mark, obviously you're going to be affected pretty heavily by this. For me, this new moon actually falls just barely in my 11th house. My 12th house cusp begins at 17 degrees of Scorpio. So this is just barely in my 11th house. But obviously for me, it's like The people I meet in my life, definitely there's a spiritual reason for it. There's a spiritual reason for all of it, but I'm more aware of it, right? I have my Mars at 20 degrees. My Pluto at 20 degrees of Scorpio, 12th house. Mars at 21 degrees. My Sun at 20, and my Sun at 24 degrees. So definitely feeling this, especially considering all of the activity around 24 degrees of Scorpio, because I don't know if you've looked at it, but November 16th is a very powerful day because it's the day where Venus comes out of its retrograde, but then it's the day that Venus comes out of its retrograde, and then Mercury goes into its retrograde on the 16th. And I want to say that I think that's when the main nodes officially shift as well. Jupiter will be in Sagittarius by that point, and we are really like officially in the new world. We're like in the new adventure. So the next 13 years of your life, and really the next year of your life, you're going to see it, especially be like a hyperspace jump. But really, the next 12 to 13 years of your life is going to be an adventure like you've never seen before. And I will even go as far as to say that 8 years from now, this world is going to look very different from where we are now, because the nodes at that point will be in the reverse. So we'll have the North node in Aquarius and the South node in Leo. So a lot of the things and the events that you see right now that are happening is going to be reversed. You're going to see this push for definitely social justice, and they're wanting to be this more balance for everyone. But then you have the South Node in Leo. I'm going deep in this, talking about the future and stuff like that, but it's still applicable because this is like a moment where literally the seeds that we plant today and over the next, and just really throughout this week with this new moon, as we're still in the new moon energies, the seeds that we plant today are going to grow trees that are going to be the fruit for future generations. Because this particular new moon is super fucking powerful, because it happened at the time of a nodal shift. It happened at the time of Uranus shifting back into Aries, and Uranus is a slow-moving planet. It will stay at a degree of a sign for days. So the fact that it shifts at the same time as this new moon is really huge, and the fact that literally the next day Jupiter goes into Sagittarius. This doesn't happen. This is rare. This is unprecedented. So this new moon is literally planting seeds that will become the trees that will bear the fruit for future generations. What seeds are you planting? What seeds are you planting? Another thing that I really want to talk about in relation with this new moon in Scorpio and how we are really holding space for new things to be birthed, I want to talk about the moon, because the moon obviously is very important. It represents in many ways how we respond and react to things emotionally. And the moon has been doing this dance with Venus. We'll be doing this dance with Venus this year. And it's of course going to be playing a lot of energies of Libra and Scorpio, right? So a lot of this energy, Libra, Scorpio, and Sagittarius, a lot of these energies have really been going through a transformational period. Why? Probably because the being that we are in is getting ready to pass on. So the being that we are all inside of is getting ready to pass on. So that's the reason why Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius energy is going through this major rekindling right now, because this is literally the death and rebirth. This is the Phoenix rising right now. That's what we're going through. So we're experiencing this in our personal life with maybe relationships. Maybe relationships that you find yourself in are having to be rekindled, having to be reborn, or they're having to be, you're having to make cuts. That's why certain people are going to be breaking up. People are going to be coming together stronger at the same time. This is why relationships with family are going to be major over the next year and a half, because the North Node's in Cancer, so we have a lot of things, a lot of trust that has to do with that. That's going to be sorted out now that the North Node is going to be trining over to the Scorpio energy, and of course trining over to Chiron and Pisces. So there's definitely this there's this need to really heal at a deeper level and to really heal our families, to really heal these ancient timelines, because that's really what this comes down. This is about healing ancestral timeline. That's another thing that's going to come up. And like I said, the moon is going to be playing this interesting role with Venus. So I wrote this all down, and these are all of the conjunctions that the moon is going to make to Venus, just kind of how powerful they are. So on August 14th, 2018, the moon conjuncted Venus in Libra at 7 degrees. On September 12th of this year, it was at 2 degrees of Scorpio. This was within the retrograde zone of Venus. October 10th, it was actually at 10 degrees of Scorpio, which is interesting because that's actually where Venus began its retrograde. November 6th, it happened again, which was just recently, and this was at 27 degrees of Libra. On December 3rd, they will conjunct again at 0 degrees of Scorpio, the moon and Venus. And then on January 1st, they will conjunct at 24 degrees of Scorpio, which is an important number. It's an important degree. Why? Because Jupiter, which had its retrograde motion from 23 degrees of Scorpio to 13 degrees. Which means that 24th degree of Scorpio, which happens to be my natal degree, is a very expansive and powerful degree. It means that it is going through a major revolution. It's like we're taking literally the next step in this transformation, and with the fact that the moon and Venus come together at that spot, it's outside of its retrograde motion. It will retrograde from 10 degrees Scorpio to 25 degrees Libra. Cover the space between the retrograde zones of Jupiter and Venus, but it makes it all the way through the retrograde zone of Jupiter and Scorpio before the moon comes back and conjuncts it, which means that by the time that Venus reaches that spot, 24 degrees of Scorpio, and the moon comes back around to it, we would have learned why we had to go through a review period on the way that we expand and the way that we learn things about our deeper needs, our deeper wants, and our deepest desires. And we're going to begin to actually forge new relationships based off of what we have learned. So that's a very important day, January 1st. The other thing about January 1st, 2019 is not only will Venus be at 24 degrees of Scorpio, Mars will be at 1 degree of Aries. Mars will actually come home on January 1st, on New Year's. Can't make this shit up, guys. You can't make it up. Like, it's so incredible. You just cannot make this shit up. I wrote down so many notes. A lot of it probably will probably make it into another video because I want to make sure that I cover really the basics and stuff, but also want to make sure I do this little ceremony with you guys. So what I'm probably going to do is we're going to hop onto the screen share, and I'm going to show you these transits and a lot of the stuff that's happening around it. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and just hop on over to the screen share. All right, so here we go right here. Don't mind all the tabs that are open. So as you can see, we do have this conjunction right here, 15 degrees, right smack dab in the middle. As of right now, 12:03 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 15 degrees. Venus at 26 degrees, almost to 25 degrees. Look at this. We have a nodal shift. Look at this grand water trine that is formed now. With the North Node in Cancer, we have Jupiter right at the edge of Scorpio, getting ready to leave and come into Sagittarius. It's the last day. And then we have Chiron here. This is a deep healing of family timelines, heritage timelines, ancient timelines, heritage. This is a healing of really us believing in ourselves and believing that we can make it out of a dark night, believing that we actually can thrive in the dark night. This is about learning to dance with your shadows too. Scorpio's not all dark. But this grand water trine and grand trines or trines in general bring miracles. So I like to think that it's through the trines that things are born. Whereas you have the conjunction, which is like the meeting. You have the sextile, which is, you could in many ways say that that's him having sex, or agreeing to have sex is a sextile. And then you have the square, which is the actual friction, the actual activity of the sex. And then you go to the trine. The trine, which is the miracle that's born after. You have the quincunx, which is well, no, quincunx is 150. Excuse me, the trine is 120. So you have the trine, which is what's born afterwards. So we have this grand water trine, which is a miracle and healing of our emotional nature, of the emotional realms, and expansion coming and great fortune coming in the way that we really trust ourselves and we actually allow ourselves to experience these deeper desires and wants, but are they really in line with our integrity, and are they really in line with, you know, is what I'm kind of feeling is it a quick fix or not? Because Scorpio can in many ways be about quick fixes, but it also can be about these long sustainable fixes. Long sustainable fixes. You have to consider it is opposite Taurus. So there's actually, whereas Taurus represents in many ways this deep security and these deep roots, Scorpio in many ways is the same thing, just in a different way, just in a different fashion. What else did I want to get to? Oh yes, let's go ahead and hop on over to, okay. So this is just through my astrology program. This is the new moon, which apexed around 11:01 Eastern Standard Time AM. And as you can see, we have this conjunction right here at 15 degrees. And there's some other things in this chart that I wanted to talk about just because I think that they're important in relation, because you can't just look at the new moon itself. You have to look at what's surrounding it, because all these energies are affecting us, right? Now we have Venus right here, 26 degrees of Libra, conjunct Ceres at 28 degrees. And this is all within this space, the space of the 10th house. Or at least this is based off of where I'm at in Dallas, Georgia. But this is based off of the space, right? The 10th house space. And all these energies are focused here. So this is what lets me know that Venus is very important. It also lets me know that Ceres, which is the asteroid of nurturance, is the asteroid of the harvest, of the mother in many ways, how we nurture ourselves, how we want to be nurtured. Venus conjunct Ceres in Libra in the 10th house is us trying to find ways to be nurtured by society. Is that kind of crazy though? But we're having to actually create new seeds from which the society is based off of. That's what this new moon is. But Ceres here is really looking to manifest a deeper nurturance. And Venus in Libra, which is at home in Libra, is looking for an integration of balance. When I say integration of balance, I mean where you balance things out and you integrate them so they can actually become one. Because when you balance things, you actually keep them separate. You have to take it another step further and integrate. So think of it as, say, it's like when you're measuring things when you're cooking, right? You have to eventually bring those ingredients together to create the cake. But if you balance these things out and you measure things out and you keep them separate, that's not true balance. That's actually keeping things separate. It's a form of separatism. So that's why it's important to not only balance things but integrate them, bring them together. Another interesting thing that we have here is that we have the planet of Mercury, which is the mind, communication, and our closer surroundings. And of course, it's in Sagittarius, so it doesn't necessarily like to be in Sagittarius. It's at fall here. it's conjunct the asteroid Icarus. And I've been paying attention to asteroids a little bit more because I think it's really cool and interesting, because a lot of times these play off these little motifs and themes in our life that I think we have a tendency to look over. Icarus represents potentially going too far with things, because Icarus was, he flew up and tried to touch the sun. His wings melted and he fell into the ocean. So Icarus can represent where we may try and take things too far. It may represent where we may try and push the envelope a bit. And there are times where we need to push the envelope, and there are times where if we go too far, we receive burnout and we fall into the ocean. So the fact that Mercury is conjunct this spot means that our minds, there's a potential for burnout. There's a potential for us to try and think our way into a solution, or to think our way into believing that the world has to be a certain way, or we have to be a certain way. We can really potentially delude ourselves. Now, this also can make for innovative thinking, but this also has there's more of a worry to take things too far mentally. So this is definitely going to be a powerful new moon for meditation and quieting your mind, because Icarus is curious. Because Icarus almost kind of feels like Gemini, honestly. So it's like these two kind of get along, because it's like Icarus is like, yo, we should go and do this, and Mercury's like, yeah, but we should. That's a good idea. It's like Mercury's going to confirm what Icarus is saying, but we also have to make sure, it's like, are we potentially just, are we overthinking things? Are we taking things a little too far? We have to think about this. All right. We have the part of fortune, which is a mathematical calculation, which is, I mean, I like to think of part of fortune as mini Jupiter. It's conjunct Saturn at 5 degrees of Capricorn. These are actually on top of the ascendant, which is very amazing. Which lets me know that as a collective, we are actually going to be acting out this energy. As a collective, we're going to be acting out the energy of this part of fortune conjunct Saturn at 5 degrees. So there's definitely a great fortune that can be, there's definitely fortunes that can be had. I think the part of fortune kind of represents, it's part of the fortune. This in many ways represents the little miracles in everyday life that we tend to miss. And the fact that it's going to be conjuncting Saturn is letting me know that it's going to be through these, I see this as, you take steps every day towards your dream. You take small steps every day. The journey of 1,000 steps begins with the first one. That's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing Saturn is going to really bestow great fortune to those who are willing to take a step every single day. That's what I'm hearing. Chiron 20 is making this quincunx over the Ceres, so there's definitely a discomfort with when there's a lack of nurturance here. We don't necessarily feel nurtured by our society. We don't necessarily feel nurtured by our circumstances. Chiron is actually wanting to heal this area. We have Juno, planet of marriage and partnerships, at 27 degrees. Taurus also making quincunxes over to this Libra energy, over to Venus, which also rules relationships, in the Ceres, which in many ways kind of represents the mom. But the fact that we have this quincunx here, and this is one thing I thought about it last night. I didn't quite understand it. How Taurus energy and Venus energy, or Taurus energy and Libra energy, quincunx each other. They're 150 degrees apart. They're not quite opposite, but they don't necessarily see eye to eye. But yet they're both ruled by Venus. So it's kind of odd. I'm guessing Venus and Taurus is more or less the I guess more of those needs that you have for yourself, and Libra is more or less the needs that we have with others and partners. But I think it's kind of weird how both of these energies quincunx each other, but they're ruled by the same planet. So it kind of makes it seem bipolar in a sense. Not quite bipolar because it's not quite opposite. But Juno quincunxing the spot, especially since it's sextiling Chiron technically, 28 degrees, 27 degrees. It's letting me know that there is the potential for a lot of people out there to where they can be overthinking their relationships, and they can think that their relationships might not be going anywhere, or they really aren't seeing the beauty in their relationships. I'm seeing this as, and it, in general, is retrograde, but I'm seeing this as there are people that may take certain actions and make certain decisions that they feel is good for them, but may only provide relief in the short run. That's because if this is about nurturance, I'm also thinking it's about getting some type of relief. So there's a danger for some people to try and, I guess, make some sort of cuts or boundaries within relationships, and we're all creating new boundaries. But there's a potential for some people to create boundaries that might not need to actually happen. Maybe things are actually okay and good the way that they are, but it has to look a certain way. The North Node is, of course, squaring this spot. So there's a challenge to allow ourselves to be nurtured by how things are going right now. There's a challenge to allow ourselves to see the good in that. Of course, now we have this the South and North Node squaring series, and the North Node, of course, is like I said, trine in Chiron. So they're not only that, but we can even just take a look at this. The new moon itself at 15 degrees is actually making a trine over to Neptune here at 13 degrees. It's a 2-degree orb, but it's still there. 13 degree 46 solar minutes, so it's actually very close. It's less than a 2-degree orb. So there's definitely there's definitely a dream that's being born today within all of us. A beautiful dream that's being born deep within all of us today. But it is going to require us to really have trust and have faith. I also wanted to point your attention to the asteroid Nemesis, which, as its name suggests, represents the way that we kind of scapegoat or point fingers, or we make the enemy outside of ourselves. And this energy, of course, at 17 degrees of Gemini, is quincunxing. What a perfect sign to be in, by the way. But it's at 17 degrees of Gemini, making a quincunx over to this new moon. So there are going to be certain boundaries that you set in place for new things to be born. And you may experience situations and circumstances with people that may not see eye to eye with you. And since it's Gemini, it's definitely going to happen. And if anything, it has to do with your day-to-day life and them not understanding why you do certain things. But you're really focused on your future, if anything. So I really wouldn't focus on these people. And honestly, know that I am that I am. And I actually thought about this last night. I thought about what that meant. I am that I am. There we go. Okay. I actually thought about what that meant. I am that I am. And it's like, it's literally you saying that you are that are, or that I am. So it's literally taking a seemingly another I am that is outside of ourselves as a part of ourselves. Because anytime you say that, you usually are referring to something else. Oh, like, look at that. Look at that. So you're referring to something else. So when you say I am that I am, you are literally taking them as a part of you. This proves the oneness. This proves that we are all one. This proves that truthfully we are not separate from each other. Hey, brother Scorpio female, enjoy your energy. Thank you for joining. I really do appreciate you. I'm glad that you are enjoying the video. We're going to start the ceremony soon, but I am going to read from, like I said, the Inside the Degrees by Elias Lonsdale, because I feel like 15 degrees of Scorpio, at least the Chandra symbol for it in here is so very good. And I feel like this is the kind of, I don't want this video to get super long, because I have other things I want to do today, and I want you to also, I hope you are enjoying this, of course, but I also want you to, get about your day and stuff like that. It's still relatively early in the day too, but this is such a deep new moon that it's really hard to encapsulate in a live video like this. unless I went live for like 3, 4, or 5 hours, where I can go really deep. Because that's kind of how, when I look at these transits and stuff like that, for me, it's like astrology origami or something like that. It's like it's geometry, and then it's, seeing how these different astrological alignments line up from, like, if you take like a chunk of like 5 years and you look at the astrology and you see how certain transits pick up after other ones left off. It's incredible how it all comes together. And it's like I kind of actually I do understand why. I mean, astrology obviously is gaining more popularity. I do understand why it's not as popular, because it's like it's so fucking deep. Like it really is. And like it that's actually one of the things I've been struggling with over the past week, is whether or not I'm going to rebrand my whole thing. And I don't necessarily want to do that, but I'm subject to do it because Scorpio stellium 12th house. So it's hard to put me into a box, even though it's fixed energy. It's in a mutable house. So it's like, for me, it's about finding something that really works and sticking with it. I love the Aquarian Adepts, and honestly, I probably will keep it that way. But I'll probably make like a poll of this, like on Instagram or something like that, or maybe on my Facebook, about whether or not I should go from the Aquarian Adepts to astrogamy, which is essentially a play on words of astrology and origami. And origami is like when you take the paper, you create these, these figurines or this geometry out of it. And I really do feel like that's what astrology is. It's math, it's geometry, and it's really a way for us to really get to know the blueprint of our soul. But like I said, I don't know if I'm actually going to do that. If anything, I might just, if I don't change my name to Astrogami, I might introduce like a segment on the channel called Astrogami, where I literally will do this thing, where this will be for like this this will be for like my like serious astrology nerds, where literally we will just kind of take like an hour and just look at these deep transits and how they connect to each other and stuff. Whereas I guess my normal content, which is what I need to start doing, is start talking about the Venus signs, the Mercury signs, the Mars signs, the Jupiter signs, the Saturn signs, and actually start talking about what each of these things mean, what do the different houses mean, so I can, I feel like I want to be able to, bring that forward. Of course, I still want to make all the other content and videos and exciting stuff, but for me, this is a transformation on how I feel about my purpose and how I present myself and how I feel like I relate to other people. So it's like I'm having to overcome, because I'm a hermit, guys. I get along well with people and stuff like that. People growing up always said, "Oh, Jamal, you're such a nice guy, such a nice guy." But it's like, I mean, I'm a hermit. Like I actually, for the greater portion of my life, and still now, I do better. I enjoy my alone time. It's not like I don't enjoy going out and being with friends and parties stuff like that and having fun, but I'm a hermit. So, and this I laugh. This is something that I've been dealing with for multiple lifetimes, where I was literally the guy up in the mountain, like away from everyone, meditating. Like I was that person. I did that multiple lifetimes, like in a row. Like I had a lot of lessons to learn about kind of ostracizing myself from society. Um, and then of course wondering why society would never change, because I wouldn't come down off the fucking mountaintop and spread any type of knowledge that I've gained, or at least just share my experience, you know. So one more thing I want to say, with the South Node going into Capricorn, the South Node usually represents more the physical manifestation of the nodes, whereas the North Node represents in many ways where our spirit wants us to go. So not as it's not as obvious, and it's a little more subtle. But the South Node is going to be much more real. It's going to show itself much more. And where is it at? Capricorn. What does Capricorn rule? Society, government, politics, structure, tradition, and guess what? Pluto is in Capricorn. Saturn is in Capricorn. Jupiter will be coming to Capricorn in a year. A year, some change. Be prepared to see things crumble. If anything, things have already crumbled. The South Node will make it apparent. It will make it obvious. The South Node going into Capricorn is going to make obvious the fact that Rome is falling. When I say Rome, I'm talking about America. But even just the way that we carry ourselves as a collective, it is crashing. Why do you think Uranus is in Taurus trining this energy? Uranus is wanting to bring innovation to the way that we build a foundation. The Taurus represents the foundation, and Capricorn is the actual building itself. But Uranus is the planet of stability but instability. So the fact that we have Uranus, which is going to be in Taurus over the next several years, Pluto's in Capricorn, Saturn's there. Now the South Node is there. If you think that you can figure out how society is going to look like in 10 years, just throw it away, throw it out the window like it's gone. Like it's like you're not going to be able to predict it. That's why this new moon is so important, because it goes beyond that physical reality. It goes beyond the physical foundation. It goes beyond all that. It goes to a deeper place, a deeper place, a deeper place. I'm not saying that Scorpio, I mean, there are two different kinds of foundations, you know, but it's going to a deeper place, a more spiritual place. I'm not saying that Taurus can't be spiritual. It's just more, Taurus is more practical and focused on the physical. Scorpio is more focused on the spiritual, the etheric, and the emotional. So that's why during this time, which seems so tumultuous, seems so crazy, hard to figure out what's going to happen, especially here in the Western world. What's going to happen with the government? What's going to happen with society? What's going to happen in politics? What's going to happen? The North Node in Cancer is also going to bring up, I'm just channeling right now, is also going to bring up the issue of island displacement of peoples. What I mean by that is how the ocean's currents are rising, right? So it's like or at least the ocean levels are rising. So there are going to be people in island communities in the world that are actually going to start to get displaced. And we're going to face over the next 10 to 20 years a major displacement in people in the islands. And that's going to, of course, bring up issues of where do these people go? And of course, it's going to bring up the whole immigration issue, because apparently there's such a thing as illegal immigrants, which is bullshit, because we're all humans on this earth. This is our home. This is our home, right? We're not going anywhere anytime soon. We're just not. We'll get out into space. We'll get out there. We ain't going anywhere anytime soon. Pluto hasn't even hit Aquarius yet. Pluto hasn't even hit Pisces yet. You know, we have some time before then. We have some time before then. Utilize this new moon to really plant a different seed. Because since it's at 15 degrees of Scorpio, in many ways it's like we can be on the fence. This is like literally like 50-50. It's like you can be either this way or that way, this way or that way. Considering the fact that at least definitely here in America, this happened around November 6th in election time, and how we always have side A, side B, Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal. The fact that this new moon happened right in the middle means that we are actually being given the option to have a third option. We don't have to pick this side or that side. We can come back to center. Yahoo! Let's read 15 degrees of Scorpio. 15 degrees of Scorpio. A woman with a gold tooth. An extraordinary gift, very abusable and utterly redemptive. You invent, conceive, bring into being whatever you hope for and whatever you dread. Usually the dread comes up more first and dominates for a while. In this cycle, you scare up the world's most extreme melodramas, each of them marked no way out, no way through. If you could outlast your dread demons, and you shall, not even giving you the option of failure, you shall, you will find in a very different direction that there are equally powerful hope angels. You hope and wish and yearn for everybody to go free, and this wishing has deep, uncanny power. For you have been nourishing for a very long time two counteracting worlds, two different sides of Scorpio. The one dark and heavy with foreboding, the other swept clean by magical will to bring the world around right now. I say the two sides of Scorpio, but I really feel like it's just the whole energy in general. The one who made the light go out brings the light back in a seasoned, tempered form, and this renewed light is phosphorescent, glowing in the world's darkness, seeing the way clear and knowing it can be done. The light has returned. The light has returned. Darkness will prevent. They'll saying that how we are holding space for new things to be born, including the light and the dark. And the dark things will present themselves first. Usually, they present themselves first. And this, in many ways, can be represented by this South Node going into Capricorn. And since it's also in an Earth sign, it's definitely going to be more physically apparent and relevant. So this is a time, like I said, where we have this redemptive quality to turn even the most desperate of situations into something beautiful and powerful. And even those desperate situations are beautiful in and of themselves. But we actually have the ability to turn them into something of a miracle, something that gives us hope, something that gives us joy, happiness. All right. So what we're going to do for this little ceremony ritual type thing, it's going to be very simple. So in the last ritual, we found that we got our sacred treasures, right? And this, now that we have our sacred treasure, and now that Jupiter will be coming into Sagittarius, it's time for us to go into the adventure for the next 12 to 13 years. Although the next year is really going to be important because this is when Jupiter is going to be in Sag. It'll come into Capricorn later, which then is going to go through this. What are we wanting to expand upon as a collective? But Sagittarius is going to be more focused on your belief and stuff like that. What we're going to do is that we're going to take our piece of paper and we are going to literally draw and hold space for things that we wish to manifest. So these are going to be the seeds that we're planting. You can do. So what we're going to do is that we're essentially going to draw a circle, and then we're going to write inside the circle what we want to manifest. And this is going to be a representation of us holding space for it. And afterwards, you can do whatever you want with the paper. You can keep it, you can burn it, you can do really any way that works for you that represents a releasing of this to the universe. Essentially, we're going on a shopping spree right now, so Black Friday's kind of come early. We really are just, like I said, going to be holding space for things that we want to manifest, and it can be as many things as you want or as little things as you want. But we're going to, like I said, just draw circles and just hold space for these things to manifest. Now, the trick here, of course, is that it's not just enough to do this. You have to actually act on it. But now that we have all this cardinal energy, you're going to actually get a boost, and you're even going to think of new innovative ways on how to act on these things. So, and with the North Node in Cancer and the South Node in Capricorn, this is also going to bring that forth. Venus in Libra is also, you already are going through this period of where you're having to reflect on, what you're open to, what you're attracted to, what you like to receive, your worthiness, the confidence that you have in yourself, how you are like, you know what, I am worthy of that job. I am worthy to have a relationship where I am treated equally. I am worthy to be in a relationship where I'm not treated as a secondhand person in this marriage. If you find yourself in abusive relationships and stuff like that, I deserve to be happy every day. I deserve to wake up every day with a smile on my face. These are the kind of things that we're going to be holding space for. So it can be material things. It doesn't necessarily have to be material things, but this is, be open, be creative about this. Uranus is in Aries right now. So it just came out of Taurus and it's in Aries now. So be creative about this as well. Be creative about this. Don't hold back. Don't hold back. Like I said, you can do as many as you want. Yeah, so I guess we can go ahead and start that. I'm gonna just put some music on actually, just for the event. I'm gonna put it just on my phone. I don't know if you guys will be able to hear it, but I'm gonna just put some tunes on in the background. Now, whether you're watching this live or you watch it afterwards, you can do this ceremony. You can really do this ceremony anytime that the moon comes into Scorpio. But especially with this new moon, you can do this really anytime for the rest of this week, and you will see changes. So let's just take this moment right now to give gratitude, to be thankful for this incredible opportunity that we have, and to hold space for that which we want to bring forth. We have to remember that's happening during a grand water trine too. So a miracle is being born right now. So this will be a very powerful practice. And like I said, you want to still come back. It's not just enough to write these things down. If one of the things that you want to hold space for is a better body, like you want to work out, you have to make sure that not only you write this thing out, but you set an alarm on your phone for like 30 minutes at some point in the day, and you work out during that time. That's how you actually create and hold space. So it's that. But doing this and doing those actions is actually going to give you double manifestation power. Okay. So let's do this. Let's hold space for that which we want to bring forth. Like I said, what you first want to do is that you want to, draw the circle, something like that. Or you can do however you really want it to do, as far as however you want to hold space. You can do circles, you can do squares, you can do stars. Stars might be a good one. I might do that one. But this is about you holding space for different things. You can do separate or you can do individual. I might just do one large star actually. So make sure that, see now, I have sectioned off this space from the rest of us. So now I am holding space for what I'm going to be bringing forth. So then you just write in here, whatever it is that you want to bring forth, whatever miracle that you want to bring forth, whatever it is that you feel like you deserve and you really deeply desire. Make sure, of course, it's in integrity. And you can put whatever you want in there. If you want to put some quick fixes in there, put some quick fixes in there. But make sure, like I said, I would encourage you to put things in there that have long-standing beneficial effects, right? So.
I'm coming down. If the words fall out of my mouth, now I'm out in the open. Breathing for a while, is the passion still alive? Our story unfolding. Hand over mine, take me into your paradise. Love me tonight, we can run till the sun comes out. Baby, we have to go. Baby, we have to go.
Now, as you can see, mine's getting pretty full here, so I probably will create some more. But yeah, it's getting kind of full here. Like I said, you can do multiple ones of these. You know, you don't have to just do this. Like I said, I'm just kind of writing things down. And if you want, you know, we can eventually do like another video where you can share these. But this is what we're holding space to come forth. So I think what it's like, at least for me, since these are the things I kind of wrote first, these are kind of like a lot of my main things. I might put a few more in here, but I'll put healing right in the middle though. So I'm going to draw a few more stars though, because
hand over mine, take me into your paradise. Love me tonight, we can run till the sun comes out. Hand over mine, take me into your paradise. Love me tonight, we can run till the sun comes out. Baby, in the afterglow. Wanna bathe in the afterglow.
okay. So I have 5 more stars on here now. And we're going to use all these are connected too, by the way. It's almost like its own little constellation, which is pretty cool. So what else am I wanting to hold space for and bring forth? I'm gonna get pretty specific on these right here. So some of these that you put in here will manifest immediately. Some of these will take a little bit longer to manifest. That's okay. It's probably a good idea to have a mixture of short-term stuff and longer-term stuff if you want to manifest. So. The last one I wrote was just kind of funny, but all right, now we have literally held off space for that which we want to bring forth. Like I said, what you can do with this is that you can keep it for an extended period of time and then burn it, or you can burn it immediately. You can fold it up and put it into something. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do with mine. I'll figure it out. I don't think I'm going to burn this one. I think I'm probably, I don't know. We'll figure out what we're going to do with this. But that is really it for this little ceremony. Very simple. And, you know, sometimes people may look at some certain practices like this and be like, what's the good that could come out of this stuff? It seems kind of weird and juvenile. But honestly, I had an incredible amount of fun doing this. Because it's literally like you were literally just asking the universe and shopping for things that you want. And I'm going to go back and look through this and be like, wow, this is interesting. Some of the stuff on here just kind of came out of nowhere. Like, they really did. Some of them are very random. But anyways, like I said, this is going to give you such a power boost going into this next year. And I'm telling you, the people that come out of this transit, this Jupiter and Sag, are really going to be the individuals that truly believe in magic, truly believe in themselves. And sometimes belief seems like an illusion. Sometimes it's like, and it kind of is an illusion, but it's just something deeper to it. It's a deeper essence. I don't know really how to describe it exactly. I think honestly, I just kind of run out of things to say, and I'm just kind of stalling for time now. But anyways, thank you so much for joining me on this video, for joining me in this ceremony. And of course, do your own personal ceremonies with this new moon energy. This is just one thing that you can do. Literally, I just came up with this on like the fly. I just came up with this probably well, originally I had it scheduled for yesterday, so like the day before Monday, I literally came up with this idea. So I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. I like that. So, but anyways, utilize this new moon energy to the best of your ability. Know that you are planting seeds that are going to be the trees from which future generations eat from. So make sure that you're planting them in the right areas, and make sure that you are putting the right information to the seeds. Right? But anyways, that is it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And if you would like a personal reading with me, beloved, you can follow the link in the description below to theaquarianadepts.com. And always remember, my beautiful brothers and sisters, to keep moving forward, to stay focused, and Yahoo! Smile often.